This week's snare of the week is a funky old late 60s, early 70s Tempro. Check out this funky thing. This is a Tempro 5x14, late 60s, early 70s. This is what is commonly referred to as an MIJ, which means made in Japan. This is, I believe, manufactured by the Pearl factory. So during that time period, a little bit of history on the whole made in Japan thing. When the Beatles hit and all of a sudden every kid wanted to be in a band and wanted a drum set, there was demand for cheaper alternatives. So Japanese factories, which would be Pearl drums, Star, which became Tama, and Yamaha, they started building cheaper alternatives. And then what they would do is different distributors would have their own brands for these drums, and they would just stick a badge for whatever brand that distributor wanted. This is Tempro. This is really a Pearl drum. It has a telltale Luan mahogany shell. It's a 5x14. It's got an internal dampener that actually surprisingly works pretty well. Pretty weird, kind of classic throw off. I don't know if they were going for like a Gretsch look or what, but it actually works. And it says right there, Japan, on the handle. You definitely can't see that, but it says Japan on there. So it's eight lugs, really cool lemon strata finish. It came with whatever I got. I bought this drum over at Hawthorne Drum Shop. So it's got just the original, I believe the original wires on it. I put an Evans G1 on top. Internal dampener does work. So if you're shopping for one of these old made in Japan snares, they're not super durable, so sometimes they've fallen apart. What I would look for is make sure the throw off works. This one is in great shape. Make sure there's no cracks in the lugs. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the bearing edges are janky, but it does have snare beds. So as soon as I tapped on this drum over at Hawthorne, it was like, it just recalled to me 1960s Roy Haynes, which is a very distinct, unique snare drum sound that I can't get from a modern drum. It kind of has to be an old, sort of boxy sounding drum to get that sound where it's like the snare wires are tightened really tight to the point where it's kind of choking out. And you get just that definitive. So think of any Roy Haynes recording from the like late 50s, early 60s. That's the sound that I heard as soon as I tapped it. But then once I got it into the studio, I realized this thing can kind of do everything. It's really funky. It's a studio drum. I certainly wouldn't gig with it. I'd be afraid it would eventually fall apart on me. But it does the high thing really well. It does the medium high thing really well. It does the really low kind of sampley sounding thing really well. Maybe the low mid isn't its best voice, but that's where I would use a modern drum anyway. So let's take a listen to it. So I'm going to go through the whole tuning range. I think I started where it's like a medium high, where I kind of dig it the most. But check it out. Here it is, 5x14 vintage Tempro. That's it. If you can find, it doesn't have to be Tempro, but in my experience, Tempro, the stuff I've found with this badge on it is usually better, a little bit better quality, but there's any number of stencil brands. There's Blackjack, there's all kinds of stuff. So I think everyone who's got, you know, really building out their collection should have one of these, because they have a funkiness that is really inspiring, and microphones actually really dig it. So that's this one, 5x14 Tempro, really cool lemon strata. See you next time.